everybody, and welcome back to my channel. And if this is your first time, you're welcome. This is Essential Patience, and I am Patience. Today, I will be reviewing a video by the YouTuber Stephan. He is also a real estate agent. He's passionate about personal finance and a millionaire. So I am definitely not going to criticize anything that he says, but I'm going to watch this video that is called How to Save a Lot of Money in College. And the reason why I'm reviewing this video is because I am always finding new ways to help people who are in college or about to go to college save a lot of money, and I want to see a different perspective as to what he has to offer to help students save a lot of money. So without further ado, let's go and watch this video, and I'll let you know what I think.
Took a look at my YouTube analytics the other day, and it turns out that a very large percentage of my audience, nearly 80%, is between the ages of 18 and 35 years old. And I know from that, a big part of the demographic is either currently going to college or is thinking about going to college. In fact, a study found that 40% of working millennials had a college degree, and that was higher than pretty much any other generation. But do you know what else is higher than any other generation? And no, it's not Snoop Dogg. It is student loan debt.
A large majority of millennials have college education, and that's because back in the day, it was so easy for people to come out of high school and get a good paying job. But as technology advances and there were more opportunities in the technology field, it just became more important for people to have a background in it. I know there are people who out here believe that you can easily become a big person tech and not have a college degree. And if you build your own company, that is true. But for most of us who don't have readily access to big resources in technology, one of the only ways we can get exposed to it is during our time in college. Some of the technology I was exposed to in college are just not things I could have at home or buy to my house, because these things cost thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And yeah, it's pretty scary. It was found that in 2018, 69% of college graduates took out student loans with an average debt of $29,800.
Average debt of $29,800 is true. I think it's slightly higher now, so this video is a little bit old. I think that's about $32,000. Average and median is very different. So the median student loan debt is less than this. Other people, like medical students, you need more money to do postgraduate, and those are in the minority. So let me give you an example. There are 10 students who go to school. Everybody takes out $5,000, maybe $10,000, $15,000 student loan debt. But there's this one person out here who went to American University for their undergrad, for their master's, and their PhD, and they're paying like $70,000 a year. So now they graduate. Even if everybody else has under $20,000 in student loan debt, because this one person has $1 million, they raise the average. But when you take the median, it will look more like $15,000. So that's a good way to put into perspective that everybody who goes to college doesn't come out with $100,000 in student loan debt or even $29,800. It's all about perspective.
And with only half of millennial college graduates believing that the lifetime value of a college degree is actually worth the cost, it's not surprising why we should be talking about ways to bring the cost down and save as much money of that as possible. There are ways to save money on getting a degree if you're simply willing to follow the steps here in this video. So let's talk about the best ways.
College is definitely worth it, in my opinion. It's all about individual choices. I got a degree in engineering, and I can say it was worth everything. Like, all the time I put into that, it was worth it.
Now, the first way to save money on your college degree is by choosing your school very wisely. As we all know, every college is going to be a different experience with a different focus and a different cost. Just go and look at the numbers, because the average price for a private 4-year college is nearly 3.5 times higher than that of a 4-year in-state school. And the true cost of getting a college degree doesn't end there. There might be additional costs associated with living and moving expenses, and also higher cost of living depending on the area, and other extracurricular activities like beer pong. But maybe now you're thinking, well, if I go to an Ivy League school and spend a little bit more money, that would make a difference, and that's going to be worth the extra cost. But if you think this way, then statistically speaking, you're wrong. See, 2 studies were completed in 1999 and again in 2011, which followed the academic pursuits and income of both Ivy League graduates and non-Ivy League graduates. Now, if the Ivy League degree really mattered, then that should be evident in the salaries after graduation. But what was actually found was that the Ivy League degree degree made no difference whatsoever in the salaries of its graduates versus the salaries of non-graduates, but who were still admitted. The finding really just suggests that it's the individual attributes of the student that really matter the most, and not which place they got their degree from.
I went to a private institution, so I'm not gonna dunk on them. I went to Howard University, and the cost of attendance is closer to $50,000 per year. But I have to agree, if you're going to pick a university, you have to think long term, not just like, oh, I want to go to an Ivy League school or my college experience, because there's life after college. Consider your degree and ask yourself, is it worth it for me to go to a school that costs like $100,000 just to receive a degree in like basket weaving? Maybe not, especially if the average salary of a basket weaver is like $20,000 per year. It's not always something fun we want to talk about, but I'll always suggest that you think about it. But the main reason why I went to a private institution versus any of the other public was the financial aid. I ended up getting more aid to go towards my education compared to going to an in-state institution where I was going to have to put almost the whole bill.
Now, price-wise, the cost of attending a 2-year community college is really just over $3,300 a year. The cost of attending a private university. That's a massive savings right off the bat, just for getting the first 2 years of your college degree out of the way. Here's why this just makes sense. The first 2 years of your college experience is really just going to be general education classes anyway.
This general education classes thing is practically a lie. Let's hold on one moment.
English, science, history, math, smashing the like button 101, yada yada yada.
Yeah, I didn't take English class because it was not required in my degree field, but I had to take writing. So the problem with going to a community college is that it's not bad, but you have to be careful because this general education is not like the same for every degree field. For engineering, like I had to start taking engineering 101 the first semester, and I had to take like physics, but it's a specific type of physics. It's a calculus-based physics, not an algebra-based physics. So if I had gone to community college and taken algebra-based physics, it wouldn't have transferred. Same with chemistry. There's a certain level of chemistry that goes for engineers. And by the time I got into my sophomore year, second semester, I was already taking engineering classes. Classes such as digital systems is really hard to transfer. And also circuit theory, even your computer science class, what language is it? Is it Python, Java, C++, C? Sometimes those could make a huge difference in your ability to transfer it. So this whole general ed may work for certain degrees that are not very technical, but I know several people who have had a hard time transferring their engineering and computer science degrees. Several universities are not accepting credits. And research shows that students who go to a 4-year university directly spend on average 48 months to receive their undergraduate degree. However, students who go to community college first, then transfer to a 4-year, spend 75 months getting their undergraduate degree. And that's because sometimes after completing those 2 years, you're gonna spend 3 years at a 4-year university, or even sometimes 4 years.
Much difference of information between schools in the first 2 years, you may as well just save the extra money and spend a little bit less by going to a community college. But I personally believe that for most people, picking a college degree and picking a major and picking a potentially lifelong career at 18 years old right out of high school is just irresponsible. At a young age, it's almost impossible to predict what you want to do with your life, and if you go to college, what major you want to study. In addition to that, community colleges also tend to offer you a more flexible schedule, including night classes and online classes. And finally, it was found that community college graduates who later transfer to a 4-year university are more likely to graduate than those who are admitted from high school or those who transferred from other 4-year universities.
But also research shows that not 100% of students who go to community colleges end up transferring to a 4-year university. A lot of them either drop out of community college or just never move on to a 4-year university. Compared to if you're already in a 4-year university, you're counting all the students who just went to the university who are dropping out. So my conclusion with that, and based on the research that I've read on it, is that students who just are more persistent end up going to a 4-year university. So then they are more likely to graduate. But if you take the overall number, students who go directly to a 4-year university are more likely than students who start out at a 2-year university. And at first I didn't want to like make any assumptions, but I definitely think that Stephan thinks general education means everybody's taking the exact same classes, so you just get to pick classes for 4 semesters. You're literally just picking general education classes. I didn't get that many elective courses. Very few classes I got to pick myself. There's a scheme and you have 4 years to finish it, or you're gonna have to spend more money. Community college would definitely not have helped me finish my education any faster or cheaper. Another thing is the fact that transfer scholarships are not always the best, especially if you're going to a private institution. I got a good scholarship that was more than I could have gotten had I gone to a community college and then transferred to my university, because they cap it. Sometimes that's something else to consider. What is the transfer scholarship like?
Going to a community college, first, not only in terms of cost, but also in terms of being able to work while still going to school, and also later transferring and graduating from a 4-year university. Now, number 3, while you're actually in college, no matter where you attend, I think it's really important that you use what you have, and that's by spending your time and not your money. Now, here's what I mean. As a college student, chances are you don't have an abundance of money just pouring from the sky, but you do have your time to use instead, and one could argue that is the greatest capital to use. Like, instead of spending your money going out to eat, spend your time to cook food at home. Or instead of spending your money on a car, spend a little bit more time walking, biking, or taking public transportation to get to where you want to go. Instead of spending money on textbooks, spend your time sharing those textbooks with classmates instead. Or instead of going out on weekends and spending a lot of money, spend your time putting something together at home instead.
I agree with this to a certain point, because I did take public transportation, and at one point I had to, for my sanity, switch to a more expensive form of public transportation, because I was out there taking 3 buses to school, and it almost took me 2 hours. And that was to school. When it was coming back, it took me another 2 hours. It was definitely cheaper to get my own car, but I had to end up switching to like the bus and train, and that still even took me an hour. And also the whole sharing of textbooks, I agree with that one. But sometimes there are code systems, so you have to buy a code to take that class. For example, a class like economics, I had to buy a code on Launchpad in order to complete my homework. And homework was a big fraction of my grade, so I couldn't skip out on it. Same with chemistry and psychology. In fact, for psychology, I remember my professor hosted like 2 exams on the Launchpad. So it's not like I could share it with somebody. It's like you can't.
Even if that means using your time to find and apply for more scholarships, which could also bring down the cost of your schooling.
Watch my video on scholarships, because I definitely agree with scholarships. It's the way to go.
Really begin to see your time as having value and begin using it now. Go and look through all the free activities your college has to offer, preferably with the ones with free food, by the way, and then go attend. So I really believe right now, time is the greatest resource that you have. And it's so important you see your time as having just as much value as having money, because it is. Now, fourth, another huge component of the cost of college isn't the cost of education itself, but also the cost of your living situation, and moving off campus could prove to save you a lot of money. It was found that from 2017 to 2018, students spent an average of $10,800 per year for room and board at public 4-year institutions, and that amount jumps to over $12,200 for private 4-year colleges and universities. That's almost $1,000 a month that just goes to housing. If you're looking to cut down on these costs dramatically, then it might be worth it at first to potentially live at home with your family just a little bit longer.
I lived at home. I would say that depending on what city you're going to school in, it might be cheaper to live on campus. There is a reason why students fight to live on campus. The list is always long. When I was determined to live on campus during my junior year before the pandemic continued, and even during my senior year, what I realized was that a lot of students wanted to live on campus because it was cheaper. I went to school in DC, and when you're trying to rent an apartment, it is so expensive. You can spend upwards of $2,000 trying to find an apartment. And a lot of students who lived off campus lived in its nearby states such as Maryland, because it was slightly cheaper there. But even then, most students would agree that for the most part, living on campus was cheaper than living off campus. I think this is similar to schools in Massachusetts, New York City. A lot of students would prefer to live on campus housing because it's much cheaper. But anything else, like, I would agree if you go to a certain state. But looking at that average for like 12,000, how many months are you spending in school? On average, like 8 months, but most apartments lease for a year. That's another issue, because most students would like to go back home for the summer, or even do an internship. So now you have to find a way to sublease it, or you'll be paying to rent if you're going to rent in the whatever state you're doing your internship. And many students can't find an apartment for $1,000 a month in DC or New York or Massachusetts or California. It's just on a situation by situation basis.
Might not be as glamorous as being able to live on the college campus, but if you're going to live at home with your family for the sake of saving money, now is the time to probably still do it while it's still socially acceptable.
And I don't think many students will consider living in a dorm glamorous. I think at the beginning maybe, but like with the fire alarm, different issues you can't control, if they could afford it, they would get an off-campus apartment. But it is just more accessible to the campus, especially if you're working late. And overall, I would say safer for some people, especially if you're moving into a new town where you don't really know a lot of people. You're with other students who are like you.
Even from my own personal perspective, I've seen a lot of my friends live at home during and even after college. And those few years of being able to live at home and save all of that money could set them up dramatically in terms of their financial future.
I forgot to mention, some schools ask that freshmen live on campus, so that's something else you want to check with in your program. A lot of them will not sign off on you like living off campus during your first year. They normally recommend that most freshmen like live on campus.
But anyway, if living at home is not an option for you, then it might be worth it to look into living off campus, which could still be significantly cheaper than living on campus or living in the dorms. Or you could look into living with roommates, and instead of spending $1,000 a month for a bed in a dorm, you could spend $500 a room for a 4-bedroom house. And fifth, as we all know, college would not be college without ridiculously high textbook costs, and that means there's another way to save money. To start, the College Board found that the average cost of textbooks from 2018 to 2019 was almost $1,300, which is insane. Now, some colleges know that students will do whatever it takes to save money on textbooks, so to get their money, they've implemented online codes into their books to ensure that each student has to buy their own.
Which is what I talked about.
Really no other reason than that they want to make a lot of money and that they're evil. But
sometimes it's also to make the professor's life easier. They can like assign assignments on there as well as exams. Some actually were good. I didn't mind paying for my chemistry code. The practice I got from the homework really helped me to pass that and really understand the principles of chemistry. If I could go back, I would say that was one of the codes that was most worth it, because I could get the practice I needed that I probably otherwise may not have gotten as much of, because like opening the textbook and getting those examples where it's just ridiculous. And if I got it wrong, it would show me the steps as to why I got it wrong and what I can do to solve it. And I ended up getting an A, and honestly that A was worth it more than the $100 and something I spent on the book. Can't say that for all of them, but
first try searching Google for a free PDF of your book. All you got to do is type in the title of the book you're looking for with file type PDF at the very back, and that should bring up any applicable search results with what you're looking for. If you can't find it on Google, then you might also want to try Amazon or Chegg. They're both really good resources in which you could buy or rent your textbooks for much cheaper than what the university might be charging you. With your professor and see if the book is actually required to have for the class.
Most professors will tell you the book is required. I would suggest more like you talk to people who had already taken the class and they'll be more honest. I remember buying 6 textbooks for African American studies, and I actually read all 6 of them. It was actually a good learning experience. I enjoyed the books, but definitely ask students who have already taken it. And with a PDF thing, I totally agree. I didn't buy any books after like the first 2 years. I had friends who would send me a PDF copy. Should I admit that?
I've been told that waiting a week before buying any textbooks could end up saving you a lot of money, because oftentimes the book is not even required or used in the class at all. RateMyProfessor.com might be another great resource to use to look up the past experiences of other students before you. And fourth, talk with other students to see if you might be able to share the cost of textbooks or be able to work out an agreement where you guys lend each other some materials. I really believe that everyone should help each other out and give as much as they receive in return. This type of collaboration could end up saving you a lot of money, and you could also make some great friends and connections in the process.
If your class has a group meet, join the group meet. If somebody finds a textbook, they're gonna put it in there. Be helpful. If you find the textbooks, share with other people. I always believe in students helping each other as well.
Some hate on this one, but I believe if you're financially responsible and you have some self-control and you're going to be paying for college anyway, then you may as well just get credit card sign-up bonuses so that way you can redeem those for free travel, rewards, and perks for otherwise something you wouldn't get anything for. Now, obviously, you should never do this if you don't know how to properly handle a credit card and you just see it as getting free money because you can afford to make the minimum monthly payment. But for everyone else, getting credit card points can be a very easy way to get free travel, free perks, and free rewards for money you would just be spending anyway. This is pretty much just the practice of opening up a credit card with a great sign-up bonus, meeting the minimum spending requirements, you get the points, and then you could repeat this with other credit cards. Now, of course, I have to warn you, you must use your credit responsibly, and this is not for the person who just spends money on a whim without even thinking about it. You must only spend money that you can afford to pay off immediately in cash, and you have to treat the credit card as though it's an extension extension of your bank account. But if you can do it all responsibly, then you may as well just rack up a ton of free travel and free perks and free bonuses for money you would just be spending anyway.
I got my first credit card when I was in my junior year of college. Looking back, I think it was the perfect time for me to get it. Freshman year, I don't know how responsibly I would have used it. I was financially aware, but there were times where it was a little financially difficult. I don't know how I would have done it. Third year, I got a secure card from Discover, and it really helped me to build my credit score. I would encourage many students to at least get it by then. College is temporary. After you come out, you may get a job, you need to move. If I didn't have a credit score, it would have been really hard for me to get an apartment, and I would have had to put down a really huge deposit or had somebody to guarantee my rent. To avoid that, you may want to get a credit card. You can get a secure card. Practice that, even if it has like $400 on it. It will really build your credit.
Let me just say this, if at all possible, try to avoid taking out any student loans. Even if it means going to a 2-year community college while living at home and then transferring to a 4-year state school and living with roommates. Just not having the burden of student loans by the time you graduate will be worth a tremendous amount of money in the future. Your choices right now about college will easily impact the next decade of your life. So if you're thinking about going to college, really consider all of the ways that you could save money and which colleges are going to be the best value for the time that you spend. So with that said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it.
Not taking out student loan debt, especially the ones that you don't need, really the best way to go. And I wanted to speak a little bit on that as well, because sometimes while we see these high student loan averages, we have to remember that some students are taking out student loans not because they need it, but because they think it's free money. If you're out there and you're taking student loans that you don't need, know that it's not free money. You're going to pay a high interest on most of them. Maybe not the subsidized or the unsubsidized loan, but especially on the Parent Plus loans is going to be a lot. I remember going to my freshman year hearing all about refunds, and I did get a little refund, but people get like a ton of refund. Like, where is this money coming from? Is somebody giving that many scholarships? But it wasn't. People were actually getting refunds from their student loans. And let me tell you, if you get a refund for your student loan, pay it back some way, somehow, or maybe the next semester take out much less loan so you can use that money to pay for your college education. Getting an $8,000 to $10,000 refund on your student loans is not going to help you anyhow. You're gonna have to pay that money at sometimes an astronomical interest rate. Do not take out any more student loans than you need. And if you want to have a chance to attend college debt free or for a very little cost, watch my video Debt Free College, which I'll link below. I think I'll make a more detailed video about my journey because the other one was like very general, but you can watch it anyway, and then I'll make a more detailed video about steps that I particularly took. So yeah, that was Graham Stephan. He didn't go to college like I said, but I think he made some fairly good points, which I definitely agree with. So thank you for watching this video. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell to get a notification for every time I post a new video. You'll be the first to know. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.